Yeah, peace. I love peace. I'd be out of a job with peace. Do we know each other?
Time. Reality. It's changeable.
Where you want to be? That's the question, isn't it?
Every universe is different. Each one unique.
Slow down a little bit. There's a few people in the room that don't understand. Not me, I get it.
Who are you?
The name's Captain Carter.
Scheiße!
I am the Watcher. I observe all that transpires here, but I do not, cannot, will not interfere.
I guess I have to freestyle then.
Hey!
We have you outnumbered.
A Ravager never flies solo. I said never flies solo.
Is that some kind of catchphrase?
You had me worried for a second.
Journey to face the unknown and ponder the question. What if?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Fireside Chat with Marvel, adapting to our new virtual normal. I'm Jessica Weissler, a ShotGrid subject matter expert here at Autodesk. Today, I'm joined by Rebecca Bever, Senior Core Developer, and Nat Mintrasak, Show Pipeline Technical Director Manager. Rebecca and Nat are from the little-known studio behind the Avengers franchise, Black Panther, and most recently, Black Widow, Marvel Studios. Thanks for joining me today. I'm excited to chat with you both about how Marvel has adjusted to the new world of remote working and your transition to a fully virtual studio. Can you introduce yourselves and what you do at Marvel?
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. Like Jessica was saying, I'm Rebecca Bever, a senior core developer at Marvel Studios. And among many other things, I head up the ShotGrid initiative at Marvel and making sure that our production technology and production teams have everything they need within ShotGrid. And I'll hand it off to Nat.
Hey everyone, I'm Nat Mintrasak, and yes, thanks for having us here today. I'm a show pipeline technical director manager, concentrating on the animation projects here at Marvel Studios. Basically working with the artists and the production team to actually build tools and support the pipeline and front-facing interface for the day-to-day.
Could you talk to us a little bit about how you collaborate on projects? I know, having worked in the industry myself, that review is sort of the meat and potato of collaboration. So maybe talking about your review workflows and just any other kind of collaborative workflows.
Currently, because of the pandemic, it got really challenging. And that was a big part of what we do at Marvel Studios, because the review is critical to how we get all the content on the shots back from all the vendors. And, usually we would have a review room and we would run an RV hardware setup, and then basically connect to our database. And then, we would have all our output monitors and everything all calibrated to get true color fidelity and all sorts of stuff. However, with the shift to working from home, so we had to be quite creative. And a lot of times we would use applications like CineSync, but we also do like using Clearview Flex in combination with RV. Evercast is another option that we use. But we're actually looking to integrate ShotGrid into our review system because of the flexibility and the very intuitive workflow. We're looking at the RV Live review that looks very promising. At the same time, we've also been exploring the CineSync integration with ShotGrid, which it's gaining really good review with our team here because of the ease of use.
What was the deciding factor for integrating Shockered into your pipeline?
So about 2 years ago, Nat and I were fairly new to the studio. I probably had been here about a year, and Nat was just getting started. And most of our productions, historically, Marvel is on FileMaker. That is, Marvel Studios has been a FileMaker facility. Productions have managed their production tracking in FileMaker. And when we started to build our technology team, as our technology team is actually pretty new, we definitely had a need for more automation and ways of integrating into our pipeline. So of course, because all of us coming from different studios, we had experience with Shotgun and ShotGrid at the time. And so we decided to dive in. Specifically, and Nat can talk about the specifics of it, we decided to start with our animation shows in ShotGrid. Animation, for one, is a brand new territory for Marvel, so we had never delved into it before. And what perfect time than any to try out, a new system, and especially with our experience. And so we kind of, dove right in. It's actually worked out really well. I'd say 2 years later, thanks to Nat, we have a fully functioning animation pipeline from the client side within ShotGrid. And we're starting to adopt more and more shows into the system. Specifically, and another reason why we went with ShotGrid is we have productions all around the world. So being on the client side and not on the vendor side, which we have experience in working with, our productions go to set. We have productions in the UK, we have productions in Budapest. And so we have to make sure that we're picking solutions that can support productions around the world. And so not only did we went with ShotGrid to make it more scalable, but we actually moved to the cloud platform and have been using that for the last year and a half, 2 years. And it's really, we're moving into a territory where hopefully we can use that system for productions around the world.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, I do want to extend a little bit further on all that, which is also the reason we went this direction, mainly because the animation projects here has been like a brand new territory, and they don't really have a FileMaker database or a template that would kind of like support this, because no one really know what we want to build or how it is. So the first 2 years, we literally was building a car while we were driving it. But more importantly, I think the reason why is because the animation projects at Marvel are unique to different from the VFX shows, mainly because we have artists, and we have a lot of artists, and we need the ability to assign tasks, track artist tasks, and also like integrating all that stuff into the database as well. Something that I'm pretty sure FileMaker doesn't really extend into that level, especially now we're exploring and using a lot of ShotGrid desktop tools. We have a Photoshop toolkit integration. We're building a Maya integration. All that stuff is brand new territory. Marvel never had that before. And, in order to have the artists and production tightly integrated in their DCC applications is the driving factor. The other thing also is Marvel is actually building out a finishing team, and the finishing department also, they like using something like ShotGrid more because the API is much friendlier. It's more mature, extensible, and configurable. A real pure Python API, whereas FileMaker and the other databases is not as easy to go in and out. And that's also our primary factor as well, because it's has a robust API. Any of our TD team can support it really well. As opposed to a database system that doesn't use, a scripting API interface that, makes it very difficult to extend it and scale it.
And also having one centralized location and database to keep a consistent schema. That's what we found, is that we had our productions are using separate file makers. I'm sorry, my dog's barking. But yeah, they're using separate file makers right now, and that's been a struggle.
What's been the biggest challenge that your teams faced during the pandemic, do you think?
For me, at least, I would say it was less of a technical challenge. Well, for one, being in your home with your dogs, right? My dog just barking and just other distractions was a challenge in itself. But I'd say one of our biggest challenges, or for me being more of on the product owning side of Shockered at Marvel, is how do we get feedback from our users? Luckily we have TDs like NAD and other TDs that interface with productions directly. But when we were on the lot and in the studio, we had more direct interaction. And from my perspective, I was able to kind of see a larger picture across the board, across all productions. So there was definitely a challenge initially of like, how are we going to communicate with our users? How are we going to get feedback out there? How are we going to implement things in a timely fashion? So I think we're still, that's still an evolving process and still something we are, faced with. But, now a year and a half in, I think we're definitely making strides and where we're at with Shockered.
The very obvious challenge is we had to redesign and rethink the way we do our ShotGrid desktop integration. So basically, prior to the pandemic, we were, while we were on site, building a ShotGrid toolkit was pretty straightforward because everybody was on the network at one in the studio, so everything was fast. The moment we went home, we have VPN to consider and the home user internet. So how do we build our toolkit pipeline so that artists can still work with a high performance working file, whether in Photoshop or Maya, but at the same time, they would be able to publish that back into the cloud, into ShotGrid. So, we partnered up with developers and we built a toolkit that has a pretty slick interface where while working in the toolkit in your DCC application, it's actually working from a local work area. And then during publish time, it actually pushes that stuff back out onto our server, and then after that, ingest that into ShotGrid as well. That was the biggest challenge in the beginning because all our ShotGrid desktop tools were running extremely slow. So therefore, that was the main challenge. The other main challenge that we do see is actually in the area, like I said, of reviews, because on the lot, everybody was able to play media directly off our storage. With that not available, so ShotGrid offers a really good solution because once you upload the media for all your versions in there, playing it back is really not an issue, especially all our unit is actually local here in California, so that kind of work. But without that, I don't even know how we can review stuff because you don't want to be streaming your source media through VPN across your home internet, and you're not going to have that type of success.
What do you think the biggest change in your team's day-to-day was when the pandemic hit, and any kind of solutions that your team came up with as a result?
Yeah, I think as mentioned earlier, the ability to customize a ShotGrid toolkit pipeline to allow for file management really, really helped, the availability to do that because, it's so customizable. You can have your pipeline configuration set up in a way that, you can do everything that you need. It's really beneficial as compare that to any other system that we were going to go with. And being in the cloud, one of the biggest challenge and also the solution that we actually implemented on our animated project. Actually, I can mention it. What if? Because the trailer is out. So for that project, what we had to do was there was a mandate from the studio that they want our vendors who are working on that project to be able to collaborate on effects elements. And because of ShotGrid, we were allowed to build out the effects library inside ShotGrid and expose just that library to all the vendors for them to collaborate and look at all the effects library elements that they all had submitted. So for example, we had 5 vendors on this show, and they all submit effects elements to ShotGrid. Well, not directly to ShotGrid, to us. And we built this pipeline to automate the ingestion process and everything and populate this library inside ShotGrid. The nice thing that Rebecca and her team had also helped us implement was the ability to lock off access for the vendor to be able to connect to our ShotGrid site, but they can't see anything but just that effects library for them to browse through all the different effects element versions. And it's one of those things that we probably couldn't, we definitely can't do this with like, I don't know, FileMaker. Like, I don't know how that would be done. But with ShotGrid, we have that access level control and also allow multiple vendors and artists to collaborate on this centralized library so that people can be like, oh, I like this explosion, I'm going to use it. I like this, and they're all from different locations, like around the world. So
that's awesome.
That was a really big thing that, we were planning on doing that anyway before the pandemic, but the pandemic really like pushed that up into the forefront in order for us to develop that. And it's running right now. So, it's something that we're pretty happy with one of those things because it allows vendors to directly collaborate with each other, including us, without no one intervening, the system just on itself. The other thing that I'd like to also add is the screening room app has been really, really important for us too. So that solution of using the screening room app for us was really nice for some of the users who are sometimes, like the main ShotGrid web pages are a little, it's a little like a lot of information, right? So it gets overwhelming for some people, but the artist seems to gravitate towards the screening room app. So we really want, more, screening room app development and features in the future would be great. But, at the current state, it's really good.
Rebecca, did you have anything to add to that?
Basically what Nat said. Yeah, I think that the vendor collaboration, I think, was monumental for us, not only just for the animated shows, but just proving out that we could do it, just proving out that we could use permissioning within ShotGrid to really separate out what we wanted them to see and also get it approved by our content security staff. That's a real big thing for us at Marvel and all the people that are involved in technology is we love the product so much. We want to make sure that we are protecting our content as much as we can. And so I think it was wonderful to be able to continue to use the system and allow for this collaboration to happen.
Yeah, I love that that it facilitated collaboration, not just with your team, but with like all of the vendor teams that you're working with. That's really impressive on a big project. I love it. What have some of the advantages to going 100% remote been to your team?
I would say maybe more collaboration can be done. At first I was skeptical and I'm an in-person type of person. Like I love being in the office. I love the collaboration. I still miss that. Like I really can't wait till we go back. But I would say the fact that we're able to, meet more frequently we've gotten really good at communicating through Slack or through messaging and through email because you have to be overly transparent. You have to overly communicate in order to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So I think about like when Nat and I interact, like even though we might not talk on a daily basis, we're constantly just sending each other things so that we're in the loop and we're on the same page. And I think, that definitely helps to keep that collaboration up.
Yeah, I think the bottom line, I feel like, working remotely and, it shouldn't impact. Like, I think it all depends on the person, I guess. But most of the time from my experience and the people that I talk to, everybody seems to be doing so much more work ever since the pandemic started. Because of the fact that you're always on and you're always on the computer. Whereas like, if you're like in the studio, when you want to get something from another colleague or whatever, you have some tendency sometimes to walk over, which is kind of nice. You see people face to face, but all that eats up into all the time that you like walk over and then you end up not doing, like on the way back, you might be like doing something else or talk to another person before you get back. So if you add all that time up, you're way more productive, like, or at least everybody that I talk to is in that same, mindset that we're doing so much more. So I don't think I don't think being in different locations should impact productivity. It depends on how you want to manage your time. So yeah.
It depends. It also depends on how you look at it, because now that we are more productive, the expectation does go up. So the expectation that we can produce more and we can take on more with limited resources. So I think that's been a thing that we're constantly battling and struggling with. Is just because to Nat's point, we do have more time to do these things. We have time to have more meetings and more conversations. The workload has increased, and that's a constant struggle that we're always trying to reprioritize what is critical and what can we wait to do later down the line.
What are some of the things that you've learned from the last year that Marvel will continue to implement in the future? Maybe something that's new and different that changed during the pandemic, but that is so great that you'll keep it around in the future.
I think for sure, we know for sure that we can collaborate with vendors really good using ShotGrid. So, through various different projects and workflows and pipelines that we build, we know that's effective. So we definitely look forward to do more things like that. We definitely know, we learned that, the Shotgun desktop is a really good avenue to build custom app that interact with the DCC application. But that's been around for a while. But for us to, I think, like I was mentioning earlier, that prior to the animation projects, Marvel Studios doesn't really have an artist pool in-house, So this is something for our studio is very new, So it's to be able to work in your DCC application and integrate into your database. That's very new. So that's something we want to do more of as we expand more the artist team for our animation projects. Yeah. So those are the two things that I think we want to keep on doing it. When we talk about tightly integrating it with ShotGrid. Yeah. Trying to think of other things that.
Yeah, I think, for the future, thinking long-term and big picture, I think it's given us the opportunity to really think about how we want to scale. I mean, as many people know, we went from producing a couple films a year to many, and now DTC or, Disney Plus direct-to-consumer shows. And so I think everything that is just how it lined up, I think we got this in, quadrupled the amount of content that we were producing at the same time that we went into a pandemic. I think what was pretty incredible, and I think we learned a lot and also will continue to do it in the future, is how quickly and resilient people can adjust to change and how quickly we're able to adapt and come up with solutions to things that we had never solved before. I think one thing that we're thinking a lot about is the fact that we have productions around the world, and the fact that cloud technologies are becoming more and more popular within different applications and systems we use. I think that is definitely an area that we will continue to move towards, or at least explore, so that we can spin things up, we can use resources in other ways and not relying on our own internal resources and teams.
Right, definitely. Yeah, that was pretty much a perfect segue into my next question, which is, how do you think that the cloud will impact the industry in the next 10 years?
Look at it. I mean, I think for one, since we did happen to make the move to the cloud pretty early on, even before the pandemic happened, it's exciting that we are there, and we are starting. I feel like we are kind of leading the charge on a lot of things that a lot of other studios, even within Disney, or our partners within Disney, haven't even gotten there yet. And so I think it's really exciting to see that the cloud will play a part in our future, and we're really trying to see the best way to do it, because we've never done it before. And I think the biggest thing is being able to support our productions around the world. It's a interesting challenge, and it's a hard one, but I think it'll be cool to see how that works out.
Nat, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I'm always a fan of having cloud type of technology on almost everything now, because you don't have to worry about backing up and all sorts, we have FileMaker databases and stuff where we consistently have to worry about keeping everything like, up to date, backed up and that kind of stuff. And now it's like, all that stuff is like out of the equation. Like we love the history feature inside ShotGrid that is so easy to find out what's going on, all the event entries and stuff. So it's like, it's all built in. Like, I don't even know why, why people wouldn't want to use a system that has all that stuff built in, in its infrastructure. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Fan of the cloud, always.
Yeah. So we have the future.
Yeah.
How do you both think that the way that people work will continue to change post-pandemic?
Well, I think post-pandemic, like for sure, like because of the amount of projects that we are scaling, there's no way for us to be able to all go back into one place, unless we have like a gigantic facility where we can put like, so many people and stuff, which, there's so many infrastructure, like, problems to troubleshoot in order to have everybody together in one place. So yeah, I mean, like, the past 15 months or so it proved that we can do projects, remotely and collaborate with vendors and our artists, team from around the world, actually. So that I think it's going to continue. It should, because it offers flexibility and it also allows you to expand your talent pool. And instead of forcing your talent pool, your artists to be at a certain location, you can grab the best animatics or storyboard artists from like New York and have them work with us, remotely. Stuff like that. I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Without the huge overhead cost of an office in, places like London, Vancouver, or Los Angeles.
Yeah. And to add to that, I think overall just the work-life balance, I think people now, at least for myself, I feel like I have more freedom to go take care of personal things when I need to take care of personal things. And I think it's wonderful that people now have that flexibility. They can work these crazy production hours, but still have time to be with their family. And so I think that's just going to continue to evolve. And I think it's wonderful we've already seen a change in that and the expectations of what time you need to be dedicating to work. So yeah, I think it's been great to see.
Awesome. Well, we're pretty much out of time, but I wanted to thank Rebecca and Matt, our panelists, for joining us today. You've both been fabulous, and we really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your stories about your workflow.
Our production won't exist if not for ShotGrid for us, because like we have to use it. It's like it's integral to everything we do. Whereas like some other production for us is they're on a hybrid, where they have multiple database or whatever. But like for us, we cannot function completely. So, and we build it from from zero and all that stuff. And now to see where.
Thanks to Nat.
Thanks to everybody who's involved too. Definitely not just me, but just in general. It's something that we want to make sure we continue to move into the right direction with all the tools that you guys offer. So.
Yeah. Yes, awesome. Shockered has been so monumental, like Nat was saying, and I'm all about scaling. I'm just excited to see where it goes in the future and how we're able to automate all of our shows and processes and really enable the creatives to do what they love to do. So I'm excited about the future and I'm excited about what if.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you both so much again for taking the time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
All right.